I am Bill Hardin, and this is the Clinton Era Podcast.
So this is not the first time you and I have ever actually talked about CTE and how the funding happens, but it really is kind of the first time we've talked about it in a while. So just kind of from the 30,000 foot view, how is CTE funded?
So the short answer to that version is that we have local money, I'll call that district funding, that the school board graciously designates for career and technical education. Then we have federal funding. That kind of comes in several different forms. Then we have state funding. The state gives us money, and then private donations. So really kind of from four different revenue streams, to think of it in those terms.
And everything kind of fits, I guess, similarly in the different aspect of what CTE is, career and technical education. So instead of it just being the traditional reading, writing, and arithmetic, and you get your money from the State Board of Education, and you've got your English teacher, and you teach your English class, you take your English test, and you leave, CTE has a little bit of a different kind of format. So tell us how Clinton's CTE programs are a little bit different than what you see across the state.
Great. Well, I don't know of anybody else who has such a holistic program selection that we have. I think we represent so well the different work sectors that are out there, especially in our part of the state, and that's really who we're supposed to be representing, with our programs. Our district has been so good to allow us to add programs through the years, and we've done that since I've been CTE director the last 8 years. And our kids have latched on to it, and our programs are easy to draw the kids. They want to take our classes. And back to your question, kind of had two parts to it. The first part is that, the role of education is to prepare students to enter college or the workforce. I think for years we've done a good job preparing them for college, and we're still doing that, especially in Clinton.
Yeah.
But preparing them for the workforce, we continue to get better in it. And of course, workforce development is a catchphrase now that you can hear anywhere you go. And we're excited to be a part of that. We think, preparing students to enter the workforce should begin at home as parents and guardians. Talk to their children about what do you want to be when you grow up, and how are you going to be independent and fly away from home and make a name for yourself, right. Stand on your own 2 feet. There's a lot to that, and there's a lot of pressure on students to, commit to a career pathway and stick with it.
Yeah.
And how many
Correct.
people do we know that have changed a career pathway? Raise your hand. I'll raise mine.
Right.
And so, we want to try to help students find their way and find their passion and really, excel at what they do. And our CTE programs allow students to explore and experiment a little bit, or to see firsthand what careers are like. Every pathway program that we have is designed to simulate a real work experience. And I think we do a pretty good job of that.
So my dad graduated from Clinton in 1977, way back in the day. And when Chuck was in school, he took automotive and, got to work with carburetors and spark plugs and all that, which that's still offered here. But you mentioned our opportunities here have developed. What new programs have kind of crept in, and how have you seen them grow?
The new programs I would mention, I go back to I think it was 2014 and 15, somewhere around in there, maybe a little later, we started Law and Public Safety.
Okay.
And that was relatively a new CTE program in the state. And boy, has that program taken off. We now have 2 instructors. We went to 2 instructors when we realized that curriculum is different. Second year is very different from first year. And so finding an instructor who can represent the expertise of that curriculum was difficult to find in one person.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, the instructor that we had that started the program, Jeff Franks, former with the FBI, formerly with the FBI, and now back with the FBI, he came to me and he said, I'm teaching this second year course, but this is way above my experience and beyond my experience. And so, again, I went to our district leadership and I said, we'd like to expand the program with a second instructor. And that's when we hired Colonel Tim Prater. And my goodness, the rest is history. He has really taken initiative to, he's retired from the military. He got certified as a volunteer fireman. He's now an advanced certified EMT. And I could talk for a while about law and public safety. Law and public safety is one of those new programs. We also have TV broadcast journalism.
Right.
That's our newest program. And the interesting caveat to that is that next school year, broadcast journalism will merge with digital media.
Okay.
They will come under one umbrella. It will be called multimedia. And so what's going to happen is there's a core curriculum that all students will take as first year. And so once they pass first year successfully, they can move to second year. And what we think is, and I think this is about to be approved by MDE, they can choose from one of two programs. And one is going to be digital audio production, and the other will be sports journalism.
Okay. So you're getting real natural forks in the road of making a decision like you would in the career field down the road,
Right.
But you're getting to do that now as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, and that's what we're supplying here. It doesn't come cheap. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is the costs that are presented to the school district. So before we get into how it's funded, what are the costs that come here? I mean, again, going back to my English teaching days, it was, you need your novel, we need lights, we need paper to write, we need pens to write with, and we need an instructor. I'm assuming it's along that lines, but instead of just a pen and a paper, we need a CNC machine, and we need an advanced tire repair program. So what all is involved, and financially, what is needed to be funded?
All of those things.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example of how that comes into reality. A few years ago when Continental Tire came here, we looked at putting an industrial maintenance program in as one of our course selections. And we were all gung-ho to that until we got the equipment list.
Yeah.
And we realized how expensive that was going to be. And so then we began to explore opportunities. And so what we have now is Hines Community College has a very well-established industrial maintenance program. And our district pays for students to go there and take those classes. It's a dual credit course. It sets our students up well, if they perform well, to be selected by Continental Tire to go into their apprenticeship program. All of those are partnerships that are built into the idea there. And so, the equipment is expensive. I remember when we moved over here in 2020, seems like a lifetime ago. Yeah. I had to sign off on all the equipment that was put in our new culinary arts, and I remember it being about $350,000. And I said to myself, I've never lived in a house that cost $350,000. I still haven't. And that's just the equipment. What a lot of people don't know is that all of our programs have advisory boards. Those advisory boards are made up of people who are experts, industry people who know what it takes to be successful in that career pathway. And each of our program has to have 2 meetings a year. Those industry experts come in and evaluate our equipment.
Yeah.
And they evaluate our program.
And they're seeing it real time because they're seeing it in the industry as is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, part of the process is us asking them, what equipment do we have that's obsolete? What equipment do we not have that we need? What about our curriculum needs to change? And you'd be amazed at the really good responses that we've gotten through the years. And folks come in and say that you don't need to teach that anymore. That's not a part of anything that we do. And there's a process that you have to go through to make those curriculum changes, but it's all worthwhile.
So finding the funds, you said we've got that local money that comes from the school district, money that comes from the state, but we also apply for these grants. So previously, last year, I wrote something that we've had before: the National Industry Certification Grant, the Perkins Reserve Grant, the Perkins Equipment Enhancement Grant, and then in 2022, our culinary arts received the Rachel Ray Grant with was that with Blue Cross Blue Shield?
No, Rachel
that was
Ray
the second
Foundation.
So Rachel Ray Foundation, and then there was also another one that they received that was with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Healthy Schools, that's what it is. So
Blue Cross, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So we've got all of these grants. What grants are we still currently using or are applying?
If you go all the way back to 1984, that was the first time that the federal government allocated money through what's called the Perkins Grant.
Okay.
And so in CTE circles, when you talk about Perkins, most CTE people know what that is, but Perkins money actually comes to us in different ways.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. Every year in the spring, I have to complete...
What's your location?
Always working.
Yeah, that's right, that radio. So in the spring, I have to complete an application with MDE and says, here's what we would like to do with that funding. And so there's an annual allocation of Perkins money that comes to us. And so we can pay for professional development, we can pay for equipment, we can pay for some testing expenses. But all of that pales into comparison. When MDE gets that Perkins funding, they earmark immediately most of it for teacher salaries.
Yeah.
All of our pathway program teachers, their salaries are paid, I think 49% is paid through the Perkins money, and then the rest from the district. Some from the state, but then the rest from the district. And so, it comes to us that way. Then we have what's called a Perkins Reserve Grant. And what that money is, think of it this way. Districts apply for that Perkins money annually. It's allocated, but it's not all spent.
Okay.
I mean, it really takes an effort to spend every penny of that money. So when you don't spend it, you don't necessarily lose it. It kind of rolls over to the next year, but it accumulates quickly.
Yeah.
And so what they do, what MDE does, is then they put back out requests for proposals, RFPs, for Perkins Reserve grants, and that money then is given to specific programs. And basically, they say, this is what we'd like for you to spend the money on, and it's typically equipment.
Okay. But it's making them, it's literally getting the most bang for its buck. It's not, we laugh all the time about how government and public education, things don't necessarily run in the fastest of manners, but we're going to make sure that we maximize the funding that's coming in so there are no wasted dollars.
Exactly, yeah. And it's kind of a situation where if a district is not going to spend the money, they'll find somebody who will.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of parlays back to us, and we've been able to take advantage of that. And I'll give you a couple of examples. This year, two of our programs, information technology and engineering, received Perkins Reserve grants to the tune of $24,600 apiece.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to mention too, Robert, our state grant that we've gotten the last few years. It's our industry certification grant. You mentioned it a while ago. This year, our total grant funding for that was $87,600.
Okay.
That's substantial.
Absolutely.
Now, that money came through 4 programs that give national certifications. And those 4 programs are automotive technology, carpentry, culinary arts, and information technology. And so when those students took and passed those industry certs, we sent that information into MDE, and the state legislature started with, and this was several years ago, like $500,000 they put aside, and specified that every district would get $600 per certification.
Okay.
The first year we got it. I don't remember what that total grant was. It was around $14,000, I think, because not all of our programs gave national certifications at that time, or not many did. But every one we submitted, we got $600 for. After that, when districts started catching on to that,
Right.
more districts started applying. The state then put extra money in. I think that funding is up now to $1 million a year. But the $600 began to dwindle, because what happens is they prorate it. So if more than $600 per grant is submitted in an application, then they give everybody some money, but it's not the total $600 amount. Well, this past year, we got the full $600 per certification. And that money is so very much appreciated.
Yeah.
It goes toward things like consumables. Example, in our automotive shop, they're constantly in need of cleaning supplies, brooms, things to clean up chemical spills, whether it's oil or coolant or whatever it is, clean that up off the floor. All those kinds of things. We're working on getting that piece of legislation changed so that we can buy equipment with that money, because it's such a substantial amount that we're receiving now. Think about carpentry, consumables,
Right.
lumber. They buy lumber, nails, screws, whatever they need to build, and all the projects that they do, they must be showing mastery of the skills
Right.
that they're being taught. So you have to tie it in.
I guess if it's being super competitive across the state, everybody wants to maximize what they can, but at the end of the day, it makes the state of Mississippi better, because now we have a well-educated workforce.
Right. And I think your dad and I are probably about the same age. When we were in high school, we knew about VOTEC.
Right. Right.
Well, some folks still call it VOTEC, and I get it. I understand where they're coming from. I know that frame of reference. But it is so high tech now. If you went in information technology now and you saw the virtual reality and the large monitor touchscreens and the 3D printers, and you would say, "Oh my goodness!"
You need to know your algebra.
Yeah, you need to. Every time I step in a program, my mind immediately thinks, "Okay, what vocabulary do I use here?"
Right.
Because there's a different set of vocabulary that you use in each of the programs.
So tell me about the Bauer Grant. This is one of the things that I know that you mentioned in one of our meetings. What is the Bauer Grant, and how do we utilize it?
Well, I could talk for a long time about the program that it's associated with. I'll try to cut it short, but Colonel Tim Prater, second-year law and public safety instructor, was asked by MDE to help write a curriculum for emergency medical services. So basically what they did is they took a curriculum that was being offered in the secondary sector, in secondary education, and tailored it for a high school situation.
Okay.
It was approved by MDE, and because he was a part of that, from its inception, he got really excited about it and came back. And of course, this is his passion. He works during the week as an instructor for us. On the weekend, he's driving an ambulance. And so this man is, constantly experiencing what EMTs experience out there in the real world.
And he's one of our national board certified teachers here in the district.
Yes, we have 4 of those.
Yeah, so that's
in
amazing
CTE,
in itself. Yeah.
So, he wanted to start the class, and I said, well, let's work on it. Let's put it together. When the numbers came back and I saw what it was going to cost, I've got a spreadsheet here somewhere. $1,282.94 per student was what it was going to cost. Now, a lot of that is involved tuition, textbook, a lot of other things that those students will need that, if you're just going and taking core subjects, these are not expenses that you have, And in the spring of last year, we met with students and parents and talked about the program before we let them sign up for it and put it on their schedule for this year. We also talked about a grant that the state legislature had in place at that time that students could apply for up to $600 that would go toward dual credit courses. A lo and behold, about a week before school started, we found out that they didn't refund that grant.
Okay.
So this year, we started the school year. We told the students that the grant had been taken away or, was no longer available, but that we're working on ways to try to help them curb the cost. The beauty of this is that they don't dually enroll with Hines Community College until the second semester, so we've had some time to work on it. During the start of the school year, Colonel Prater reached out to some folks and found out about the Bauer Grant. And, the Bauer Grant started out, I think the organization did, as helping healthcare facilities, especially related to people who are on kidney dialysis and things like that. I don't know exactly everything that they did when they first started, but now they're reaching out into high school settings and secondary education and making some really worthwhile grants. He came to me and we filled out the online application together and came up with about $14,000 that we thought we would need. And that day, when he hit the submit button, within hours, they responded and said, "Hey, we have a way of awarding you a $12,000 grant that doesn't have to go through a review board or anything. Would that help?" Well, absolutely, yes. And so that was our first introduction to the Bauer Foundation and just the folks there and their willingness to come and talk to us and expedite things. Within days, we had a check in our hands. And we were able to deposit. I had a meeting this morning, as a matter of fact, with Hines Community College, and we've ironed out some of the details on how we're going to pay for tuition and we're going to pay for the background check and the things that are required. For these students will get to ride 4 12-hour shifts on an ambulance in the spring. And
you can't get much more real world than that.
And when we talk with parents, the instructors from Hines actually came. The physician, they have to work under a physician's license. Dr. Anderson is his name. He came, and they told them, just examples of what the students might see.
Yeah.
And they said, we're not trying to discourage you from letting your student take the course. We're just telling you up front, this is a reality of what they might see.
Yeah, galvanize them before they get going so that they're ready to go. So this is, again, their ability to understand how valuable it is to invest in high schoolers to then move this on into the future so they're ready to go, exposed to it by 16, 17. And this has been a shift really that we've seen since 2020, since the world got, thrown away and then put back together and all that. It's almost like there's an which of course this is Clinton, I understand. There's an expectation of continued growth and continued development. But how do you define the growth and development? What are the goals for the future? How do you move this what does it look like in 5 years?
Well, it does fluctuate, but it fluctuates based on where the shortages are. There's a teacher shortage, and our educator preparation program used to be known as Teacher Academy. It's growing. We think in terms of Amazon coming to Mississippi and them putting in their facilities. The reports I have seen have said that the need for students who are able to run fiber, split fiber, install fiber, do all of those kinds of things, not just for Amazon-like facilities, but for other people who are going to utilize those services, it's going to grow exponentially. And, I'm trying to get my mind around right now how I communicate to students the opportunities that are there.
Right.
Not just the number of sheer positions available in it, but the money, the career that's there, if that's their thing, if that's, what they want to do. It's no longer sitting behind a computer.
Right.
It's actually being out there in the trenches when they're pouring a foundation or, putting in a facility somewhere.
They don't necessarily have to wait. So like I turned 40 in 4 days. So I get to be a real adult then.
Congratulations.
Childhood,
Yeah,
appreciate
you
it.
made
I
that
made it,
long, yeah.
almost made it. But that whole idea that we very much had, growing up in Clinton, graduated in Clinton, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get a good degree, and I'm going to get a good job, and life will start at 22, 23, 24. These kids can technically get out certified 18 years old and then continue getting more certification through their employer. Some of them will even pay for college to where they get a college degree and get more certification and continue to grow. And they're where I was at 30, at 22, 23, 24 years old. It's just crazy. One thing you were talking about with Amazon I laugh, everybody makes fun of me. I listen to podcasts all the time. I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about engineering schools. I know Mississippi State offers this. They have a degree in logistics, and it's all in the engineering department. And there's lots of logistics that go into trucking, transportation, and all that, but also inside Amazon, AWS, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's just amazing how everything is starting to infiltrate and merge into each other. And these are the kids that are going to take off and take over, and they're poised based off of what is here. Last thing I kind of want to talk to you about is, like we were just talking about with the kids, it's not just the 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. Our CTE fingers reach deeper into our middle school and sometimes even into our elementary schools. Where do our students first get exposed to CTE-type courses here at Clinton?
Well, we want them to be exposed to CTE type courses even in elementary schools.
Yeah.
And so those principals of our elementary schools do a great job of promoting things like Career Day, where you encourage the even elementary, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, talking to the students about what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? And of course we know that what that's like for students to, and some of those students are pretty creative at the things they come up with. My daughter, I don't remember what grade she was in, but it was a school program where she was in elementary school. We went to it, and each student came to the microphone on stage and told what they wanted to be when they grew up. And my daughter walked to the microphone and told everybody her name, the whole crowd there, and said, "I want to be a part-time pediatric cardiologist." Part-time pediatric. I'm like, is that even a thing? I don't know if that's a thing. Now she teaches third grade math, So, they can be creative and have all kinds of.
She handles her own heart attacks in different ways.
Exactly, I guess so. But then we have computer science in every grade.
And that starts in kindergarten.
It does.
Yeah.
It does in every grade, and it starts to formally come together. I think about fifth grade, sixth grade. And then in seventh grade, that's where they can take cyber foundations, app creations, robotics. At our ninth grade school, we have exploring computer science. Those are called enrichment courses, and they are designed to give students a little more broad view of what career opportunities are out there. And then we recruit ninth graders to come to the high school and start taking CTE courses as 10th graders. The beauty of that is that, we've been here so long and our district is so cohesive and have such great community support that it's generational. Parents who went through our courses tell their children, well, I did this, and some of those kids come in and say, my mom or dad did this, or my sibling did this, and it's what I want to do, or, it's just fun to see the number of kids come in and have a connection and say, well, this is how I knew what I wanted to do. You asked a while ago about what's it going to be like in the next 5 years. The honest answer to that is I don't know, because there are going to be jobs available in the next 5 years that we haven't even conceived in our minds that are possible. And so that's what we're doing, is we're trying to prepare students for those jobs, those careers that we don't even know what they are yet.